Welcome to the Art Colony, a podcast about art and art history in Provincetown. My name is Gaston Lacombe. When we mention the word art, I assume that a lot of people, maybe even most people, think of painting. Well, our guest today is not known as a painter, although he might challenge me and say that he is because he is mad good at makeup. Today we are talking about the art of drag. Nowadays, Provincetown is unimaginable without our very beloved and talented drag queens and kings. No matter what time of the year, summer or winter, we are bound to encounter multiple drag artists every day. And we never do things halfway in Provincetown. If you want to succeed here in drag, you better be at the very top of your game. And no one, and I mean no one, is more at the top of his game than our guest today. So welcome to the podcast, Jeffrey Robison.
Thank you, Gaston. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, who is Jeffrey Robison?
Well, who is? Well, I guess most people would say I am Varla Jean Merman. I mean, that's, probably.
What a surprise.
I know, right? I mean, it's so funny that even when you say that Provincetown is, sort of the drag capital, it's funny. When I first got here, it was really more lesbian comics. There was a whole area, time. I guess, a lot of gay guys had died, and lesbian comics were the thing in Provincetown.
So what year is this?
That would be around 95.
Okay, so that was your first time in Provincetown?
My first time in Provincetown was 1995, July 5th, 1995, and I opened for a drag queen who was very well known. People probably still remember her, named Lipsinka. And I opened for her. And I remember that Lipsinka wanted a reveal when they opened the stage, so I wasn't even allowed to be on the stage. I had to perform down on the floor of Town Hall. And even that, I think because people couldn't see, I used to have a very high voice back then, and people thought I was a real woman. I mean, which was wild because I think back then I was very heavy too. I weighed like 300 pounds. But that was my first time to perform in Provincetown, and I loved it, and I wanted to get back here. And then I came back. I think I did something in 96 and 97, but in 98, I started doing the full season.
So let's go back to 95. You were talking about lesbian comics.
Yes.
And a lot of men had died. So give us an idea. What was the general picture of Provincetown at that moment?
It just wasn't quite as fancy. It was definitely more rustic, and there were hints that was going to happen, but it was less fancy. That's all I can really say. It was so much fun, and every week was good. Every single week. Because I really think theme weeks started to make people feel, I mean, it's so interesting, right? A theme week is supposed to make people feel included, but what it does is make people feel excluded. So people's like, oh, it's Women of Color Week. I don't want to, I don't want to go that week. I'm not a woman of color. And it really changed. And, Women of Color Week was very small. So then nobody would really come that week because they thought they weren't really welcome. And so I have a love-hate with theme weeks because I love Bear Week, yes, but, Bear Week, what happened is everybody wants to come Bear Week, and then you have all these other weeks where it got slower. It used to be every single week was incredible. And then August, it was just, like on fire. It was just a different feel. And then theme weeks really started to take over. There was always circuit kind of Queen Week, but it was a totally different sort of circuit queen, I guess, around July 4th. But I loved it. It was just, I think about those days, and I was working in advertising in New York City, and then I got into the Broadway show Chicago in 96, and I was an understudy. So I just had to call in. I didn't have to go to the theater because I was only a couple blocks because in Manhattan. I worked for Ogilvy and Mather, which is a big ad agency, and I would just call in. So I was doing them both, and I never went on because I think the guy playing the part did not want me to go. He would not. I never went on for like 3 years. Finally, I think after I performed here, the woman from the post office who I loved, who was a character named Phyllis Schlossberg, and she owned the Pilgrim House first, and she brought Waylon Flowers here. I mean, she is a legend, Phyllis Schlossberg, but she saw me or heard about me with Lipsinka, and then kept trying to get me to come here. And finally, one day, she said, "You're going to make so much more money in the summer than you'll ever make in that dumb ad agency." And you know what? I took the risk, and I quit my job. I can't believe it. I mean, and she was right.
Well, that's good.
She was right. And she was a character. I mean, back then we got paid in cash, and she was kind of agoraphobic. She wouldn't leave the house. And I love her. But, she would drop a bag of cash between the banister, and you'd just see her nails and her bracelet over the thing. And she always thought you're so butch, she would say. But I loved her. Phyllis, Phyllis was a character. But if your show wasn't doing well, Phyllis would call you and tell you to get out on the street. She would listen to your whole show on the telephone. They'd put the telephone up, and she would listen to your whole show and tell you jokes she didn't like. She wouldn't come see it. She'd come see it one time a year. She'd see all the shows in one night. She was amazing.
So she was in charge of the post office in the 1990s?
Yes.
The post office cafe.
Yeah, post office cafe. Yeah. And then her lover, I guess, because gay marriage wasn't around. Diane owned Diane Z's, which was across from Town Hall. And it was a great experience. It was amazing. But back then, it was like comics like Judy Gold, who's still around, Susan Westenoff is still around. It was all lesbian comics. It was really fascinating. There were only a couple drag acts back then, and now it's totally switched. I mean, I'm so lucky that I'm booked here, because I think it would be very hard to get booked here now. It's very difficult, and people want to be here, but they don't realize it costs a lot of money to be here. It costs a lot of money, And I have an assistant. I house him. He was amazing. I can't do the show without him. I have a piano player. It's very expensive, but it's, totally worth it. I mean, to be able to do a show, if you do a show and you do it on weekends, let's say, and you do a new show and you go to Minneapolis, and then you go, well, you do the show and then you don't really remember the new stuff you added, because I'm a big improv person. So you just read your script again, and then it just stays as your script. But in Provincetown, you do it 5 nights a week. So every night, I remember the new joke I said last night, because I said it last night, right? It's not a week away. And then by the end, the script is totally different. It's cut down. And then all the jokes then are more organic, because they come out of what you cut it. You have all this writing. Then I cut it way down, and then suddenly it kind of balloons. It gets bigger, because then all the jokes are organic. Because as a writer, sometimes you just write something to be funny, but it doesn't really organically belong, another thought. And I love that about Provincetown, to do it night after night after night and just add and add and add. And then it's just a totally different thing. And in fact, I'm so, by the end, because I'm not a very good typist, I give I tape the show and I give it to my friend, and she transcribes it, because it's completely different. Because then I don't do the show every week, right? I go to Minneapolis on Friday and then somewhere else on the next weekend. So then I need the script at that point.
So you've had a residency in Provincetown for how many years now?
Well, since 1998, I started at the post office for the whole summer.
And at what point did drag residencies start in Provincetown? Have they always been around? Is this something that happened in the last 30, 20 years?
Well, there were acts, but people did not do different shows. They had one show. Like, it was one performer who did, impersonations, and they would do the same exact show year after year after year after year. And I do think, and probably a lot of people hate me for this, I did sort of just say, I'm going to do a whole different show. I want people to come back. And, that's, it makes it very difficult. But now, everyone is trying to put the best show ever. So the quality here is so good, because everybody knows what they have to compete with. You get some of these drag race girls that come here, and they just think they're going to, get just all of this adoration like they get in every city they go to. But Provincetown is a very discerning audience, and they do not put up. I've seen some shows at Town Hall.
Excellence.
Town Hall is sacred. It is revered. It is a sacred place. And then when you get someone that's coming in that just does their bar show that, they did in San Diego, they don't respect that here, the audiences. They don't respect it. You have to have a full show, beginning, middle, end, So I've seen some girls come here and get in trouble with that, because they don't have a full show. I mean, they're personalities and celebrities, and Provincetown is I've had years where I could tell, wow, they don't like this one. It's been a long time now, and that's what's, pretty great. I think when I started, I was just having fun, and I don't even know quite what I was doing. I didn't know I was going to be doing drag for a living. It just sort of happened. And, it is interesting getting older as an artist, because I don't think I'm done. I think I'm getting better. I do. I think, my voice has changed now. Yes, it's very low, and I used to have, a very high voice, but I just feel I totally understand now. Like, it must be like really suck to be Britney Spears and peak when you're 17. What do you do? Because pop music or, athletes, you peak and then you're done. And that's your art. That's your skill. And then you're done. I mean, I'm so lucky that I keep writing. And then I've also found that, as a writer, that you kind of cannibalize your own jokes. You're like, I'm going to do this. Like, I had a fake leg in my show for probably 20 years. And you kind of go to the same joke, and then you kind of tell yourself, oh, that's my joke, But I totally think that you need to have a director who will totally point you in a different direction that maybe you didn't think of. My friend Jackie Beat, I gave her my script at the end and she just punched it up, I said, I need a better joke here. And she gave me more jokes, and you pay them and it's for the good of the show. I know a lot of people say, I have to do everything. I have to write it. No, I just want to make the best show. And I don't care who wrote it. If it gets a laugh, then it's mine.
Well, good. Now, going back to your voice.
Yeah.
You sing live.
Yes.
Now, I remember growing up, I think we might be similar age. When you had a drag performer, it was all lip syncing.
Right.
At what point did it switch? Because nowadays, if somebody comes here and lip syncs, we all go, well, okay, thank you. But we expect to have a real voice.
Yes. What's so interesting is that Lip Synca, who was an amazing lip sync artist, sort of changed the game where you could create art from being a lip syncer. Sasha Velour, have you seen her show? It's
No, I haven't.
One of the most incredible shows I've ever seen. It's multimedia. It is incredible. She is an artist and she is a lip syncer, but it is so artful. You have to see it. It is performance art. It is beautiful. I mean, she is probably one of the most talented girls to come out of Drag Race. And, there's some really good ones, but she's one of the best. And she's coming here, I think, July 6th. Her show last time was unbelievable. I mean, you're not going to believe the art. It's art. But I think, with RuPaul having the album out in 95 or whatever, Supermodel, it just sort of changed in New York. People were like, well, she was around here lip syncing. Now we all got to start singing, So I actually never really lip synced. I never lip synced because I was always doing a character. So it was more about the comedy. And you can't just start lip syncing after talking. So I never lip synced, but all the girls in New York, there was sort of a renaissance in drag in the 90s, and everybody sang. Everybody sang. And then Drag Race, which is so interesting, is RuPaul's show, who doesn't lip sync, but is trying to find the best lip syncer. It's very strange because that's not what she does. She's not a lip syncer. But drag, yes, in most cities is total lip syncing. But I do remember I was in New Orleans working at an ad agency there. And I was doing drag and I mostly did videos. I would do videos, my friend would film them, and we would, like me in terrible drag, getting chased by a plastic rat or drinking a gallon of milk on the streetcar, and he would film them and they'd last for like 30 minutes and we'd put them behind the dance music in all the bars and they would play them. And they were they were wild. But my friend that I went to high school with, and I went to a performing arts high school, well, it was math, science, and arts. I was actually in chemistry. He moved to New York and said, I just saw a drag queen last night do a monologue over a Wagner aria, Tristan and Isolde, singing about, talking about going into the Tower Records and wanting, a Wagner aria by Eva Martin, but it's supposed to be, Wagner aria by Eva Martin. And that the guy was so mean to her. And then she had this fantasy of coming in with, Eva Martin, she called her. It was so unbelievable. And it turned out that person was Miss Coco. But I moved to New York after he told me that story. I said, you know what? The drag in New Orleans, and no disrespect, was
because that's where you're
lip syncing. Yeah, I'm from New Orleans, and it was all lip syncing. That's all it was. And so I thought, what are they doing in New York City with Wagner arias? It just sounded like, I just thought it was, it sounded magical. It's like, what is going on there? And it was magical. Everybody was doing a different thing, and it was an amazing time. But that was Miss Coco Peru, who is now a very good friend of mine, who's also coming this summer. And she's amazing. And, one of the best monologists, whether in drag or not, one of the best monologists in the world, I think. She's unbelievable, but does drag. It's, and so it's funny because I tried this year purposely not to do anything political because I thought people need a total escape. Just this is not the year to even talk about, not even mention politics. But her show is all about it. And, he did the whole show for me on the phone like 2 months ago because he's debuting a new show here. And it's unbelievable. So make sure you see Sasha Velour and Miss Coco.
Wow, I put that all on my list.
Yeah, I know.
Now, have the audiences changed? Because now there's so much drag in popular culture. Have the audiences changed here in Provincetown or elsewhere?
Well, Provincetown has definitely become less gay. And now gay guys, a lot of the big theme weeks want to party. They don't come here to see a show. They don't come here to have dinner. They come here to, go out at night and then go to the beach. They come here to party. So you have to kind of think about having a broader audience. I mean, I used to do kind of gay niche shows. They'd have a gay niche sort of sexual title, and they were to attract gay men. But things have changed now. And I really realized that it was with COVID, because when COVID happened, a lot of people from Massachusetts came, and it was just mostly local people. People weren't traveling.
A lot of day trippers, yeah.
Day trippers. And so it was at that point where I realized, oh my God, you have to get them in here. And you know what? It was a great year for me to sort of change my focus. And it's not that I'm pandering to them. I just think about them as an audience. Like when you're talking to someone, you see what they understand. It's not like you're sacrificing your art just to talk to someone. It's just, you realize cabaret is a conversation. And when COVID happened, it was the most amazing thing for comedy. It was unbelievable because what it did, it gave everybody a shared experience. So you could make fun of this shared experience. It's like when, comics back, it was so trite, about airplane food because it was so bad. Everybody sort of had that experience, but COVID was comedy gold. I mean, it was comedy gold. And I'm not making fun of it, but it did unify people. It unified people in a shared experience, which is what comedy needs. Comedy is when it's the funniest when it's about something that you have either thought before and thought, oh my God, I thought, or it's so obvious and you didn't think about it.
One thing that's great about drag artists, especially here in Provincetown, if we talk about art, is that there's so many different types of arts being combined in one person. I made a list. There's theater, there's stand-up comedy, there's singing, there's vaudeville, there's burlesque, there's the makeup, there's the wardrobe. I mean, there's so many things you have to master to be successful. How did you achieve all of that?
Well, I always think it's better just to pay people who know what they're doing.
Good.
I believe in employing other artists. I mean, I cannot do hair. And, doing hair is an art. It is an art. I've never done it. I've hired the best. Clothes, like I have the most amazing costumer. Unfortunately, she's moving to Greece because she's tired of Florida. Electra. Electra is an amazing performer. She's been around a long time. She's an old school pageant girl, but she knows how to do anything I ask her. So this year, there's a Sabrina Carpenter, and my new show is all about pop princesses on the radio right now. And I've never done a show that current, but I thought I did Taylor Swift last year, and I got so many straight girls, and they were very respectful, but also gay guys. Gay guys and straight girls love Taylor Swift. It was like a great combination. So this year, Chapel Roan is so big. All gay guys love Chapel Roan, but they also love, pretty pop girl singers. And so I just put them all in one show. But there's a song that Sabrina Carpenter has called That's Me Espresso. I don't know if you know, because the whole thing is that she keeps her boyfriend up. That's that Me Espresso. But I wanted to do that Me Potato. I'm a potato. So I say to my Electra, I say, you think you could make an outfit that's like a silver lame jumpsuit and then blows up like a baked potato, and then I open it up and cheese and bacon bits fall out? She's like, sure. What color? And it blows up. I press a button and it turns into a giant baked potato. And then I open it up and there's the butter and the cheese and everything. So it's like this weird sort of vagina thing. It's just like insane. I love Electra because we'll go to the fabric store. We'll have an idea, but then I see the artistry in her. She looks at this fabric and that fabric, and I don't have that gene. And it gets so excited. I've never said to Electra something she's like, ugh, okay. It's always excitement of making it happen. He's, went to Tisch, Broadway trained, Broadway costume design trained, so they last forever. But I love that excitement in another artist, And even with tech people, a lot of times you go to a club and the tech people, they're tired. They don't want to even do it. It's just a job. But then you'll now and then get a tech person who can't wait to make something look great, and they see your number and you see the excitement in them of their art. So I like to be surrounded by people who are excited by their art, because then it makes me better.
You've been doing this for a long time, so there's been a lot of costumes. Where are they? What's happened to the costumes?
I used to keep everything, and then I just started giving them to friends. And, my body has changed a lot over the years, and now I'm so big. I'm trying to get a little smaller, but I like Ryan Landry. I give tons of stuff to Ryan's boyfriend, husband, Scott
Penny
Martino.
Champagne.
Oh, who is amazing.
Yes.
And Scott Martino, Penny Champagne, is an artist. He can do anything. He can build clothes. Last year, I needed a guitar. I did Taylor Swift, and I said, can you make a guitar where I open it up and it's actually a medicine cabinet with little liquor bottles and pill bottles? He's like, sure. I said, and can you make it so I can fold it down and put it in a suitcase when I travel? Sure. Like, excited about it. Like, there was an excitement in him wanting to create this for me. And I love that. So I give Scott pretty much everything. And Scott, is slowly getting bigger.
Match
to take him
size.
in. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Not really. No, I'm kidding. It's like,
and you used to do a lot of plays with Ryan Landry and other drag queens, but the last few years I haven't seen as many of those plays.
Since COVID happened, people kind of stopped doing it. And plays are, for the love of theater, plays are so difficult, especially in Provincetown, because everybody has a job or two or three. Everybody still wants to go out and have lots of fun. And so to get people to rehearse a play, what it takes to rehearse a play. One person, you can rehearse all you want at home while you're taking a shower. You can, sing. When you do Broadway theater, that's their job. So that's what they're focused on, But here, it's not what people are focused on, and it can be very frustrating.
And the summer here is extremely hectic.
It's so hectic. And you know what? Plays are, they're a lot of work. And it's hard to get an audience here. Ryan's always, sort of mastered it, where it goes so fast and there's so many jokes that you don't have time to even be less attentive. He's amazing at that. And that's his style came from Provincetown and trying to keep people's attention and make it move so fast that they don't have time to start thinking about, what they're doing next.
I want to talk also about the fact that you're able to attract an audience. Every night in Provincetown, there's about 30 shows going on, but you've been able to attract them for so many years now, and they keep on coming back. I go every year multiple times to see your show. So how do you keep that audience?
I think when I started, the voice was sort of shocking and people couldn't tell if I was a real woman or not. I was very, very thin. In fact, when I got to Provincetown, I lost 100 pounds, but all my videos were me as a fat Varla. The videos, people would say, who's the fat lady in the videos? There's a whole movie Parker Posey's in. Is it Adam and Steve or whatever? Yeah, where she's a comedian who loses weight and still does fat jokes because she doesn't know what to write as a thin person. So that I kind of went through that, because when you're a fat drag queen, those are a lot of jokes you say about yourself. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, I'm able to use them again now.
But you're not fat now. You're actually a bodybuilder.
Yeah, but a muscular guy just looks like a dumpy lady on the stage. And then, so when I started, then there were some great artists who kind of came to town, like Miss Richfield, like unbelievable. Like in the improv, there's probably no one finer at the improv, because it is, can I say cunty?
Yes.
but not really. And it's in a way that it sounds like a compliment. It's a backhanded compliment. And he's so good. So when he came to town, it was just a total different style of comedy. And back then, it was just me and her and a couple other people. So, it was like, oh, I gotta do something to, kind of revamp myself. And I don't even know what I did, but, we were great friends, me and Russ, and he is so talented.
Russ
I love him.
Miss Richfield.
Miss Richfield, yes. And so
I don't know all their real names.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I not all of them, I don't know. But what I did, just like I said in COVID, I realized you have to fill out a show now. Especially, I'm in a big room, it's 200 seats. To fill out a show, you have got to include everyone. It can't be just gay niche humor. And Miss Richfield did that kind of before everyone, right? She in town. She was a drag show that straight people, families, anyone could get. And I was kind of naughty and blue and it's interesting to have a wider audience in this town. You do have to just consider who's coming. When I did the Taylor Swift show, I just did it because I love Taylor Swift. And then this year, I love these pop girls. So it just so happens that we have this in common with straight girls, right? Gay guys and straight girls like a lot of the same things. Mm-hmm. And you just have to harness that. And you're not pandering to them or changing your art, but you do have to consider who might come, right? So you just like I wouldn't say a reference as a joke, to 30-year-olds about, like Milton Berle. They would have no idea who that is. So you don't do that kind of joke. You do a joke that maybe everybody can get. And it's interesting because when I leave Provincetown, the shows change a little bit because then I start to get much more gay audiences. And they you just kind of adapt. I can improv for, the whole drag thing with children is so interesting because most drag queens are not terrible people. There's a couple, but you're not going to say horrible jokes and use filthy words in front of a child. It's just so funny that they created, drag to be villains. And, we're still people, just like comedians, that you don't say certain jokes. You wouldn't say a cancer joke if you were hosting a cancer benefit, right? Mm-hmm. Like you wouldn't do that.
Now, we in Provincetown, or as maybe just me in Provincetown, I have this view of the drag world, of all the people that are here, and I have had the impression we're the center of the drag universe.
Yes.
But you travel the world as a drag artist. So where does Provincetown stand in this? Are we the center of the drag universe, or is it just an illusion that we have here?
We are the Branson, Missouri of drag, or Las Vegas of drag, because I usually say this. If I go perform somewhere and Miss Coco's performing at the same theater, well, I'm not going to see her because she's going to be a week before me or a month later. Here, we're all here at the same time. It just does not happen. When someone books an act, you're the only one there. Even those Drag Race girls, they may do a couple in a show together if they're doing a variety show. But here is the only place where we get to be together. We get to see each other's shows. We get to hang out. We get to, complain, and we get to with each other, and it's amazing. It's such a community, and I wonder if people think it's catty or not. People are very professional. I mean, here they're so professional, and everybody knows they have to do a good show. If you don't do a good show, people know right away. If you didn't put your work in, you are not going to do well in Provincetown. I used to even try shows out here, and I've stopped sort of doing that because now I'll kind of try it out. Like in Palm Springs, I'll do like half a new show and then, try different numbers on, so it's not all one pressure, because it is, when you get here and it's not quite going right, the pressure is crazy, because you're like, every person who comes to see this and it's not quite working is going to tell everybody they know it's not quite working. And then they'll say, well, Varla's done now.
You were talking about the fact that you all get to interact.
Yes.
And there's also mentoring happening. I know, for example, I have a friend called Kiki Ballchange.
Yes.
And you have worked with him,
Yes.
her, to help develop their act.
And she's amazing. I mean, Kiki's, and Ms. Coco is kind of her drag mother. So, she's amazing, and she sings beautifully, and he's really funny. And the dancing is insane. And the split, crazy.
So talk to me about the mentoring aspect from one generation of drag queens to another, or drag kings even.
It's interesting because I'll talk with Miss Coco and she'll be like, oh, she respects her elders, meaning that a young girl, there are young girls on Drag Race who could care less what came before them or what after them. They're just there for themselves. But there are a lot of drag artists who are aware that everything's been done before, just like, in almost all art, everything's been done before. And they're very respectful to us older gals. And, like Ben de la Creme, used to come see me for years, and then, was so respectful. And, any article like Jinx Monsoon just, was on Broadway and was saying, it was so sweet because they were like, how did it feel to be the first? And she's like, I wasn't the first, Peppermint, Varla Jean Merman, and she listed all these people. And I thought, how, that's just amazing. Like Jinx is an amazing talent. This is just wild that she's had this success. I'm so happy for her. But, we all knew it. We all knew Jinx was going to do something amazing. And it's so exciting to see. But Jinx also respects her elders. She would come see me in Seattle. And I think those girls that do, they sort of know, just like I did. I knew all the drags that had come before me. A Charles Bush, Charles Ludlam. You kind of do your homework, because not that you're ripping them off, but things have been done before and done pretty damn well. So you can be inspired by people's work without copying it. Obviously, in art, there's a total way to be inspired by someone else. And so these girls that are sort of on TV, some of them are just look queens. And, what do? They just want to be the best dancer. And that's one thing. But when you are having a conversation with an audience for an hour and it's not just lip syncing, you kind of have to know what has come before you so that you know how to build on it. I mean, that's art, right? It's taking everything in your world and then creating something different. But the more that is in your world, the more diverse your art can be, right?
So in Provincetown, we see a lot of young people arriving here and they want to make it. And I see them developing year to year. Their look changes. In the drag world, their outfits change and they evolve and they grow. And what would you tell them? I mean, if somebody comes to you and says, I really want to get into this, what do you tell them?
Well, first of all, to create what they want to do. I mean, the thing about when I started doing drag, there was no template. You did what you want. I mean, there was no template. Now there are several templates, because if you're a young drag queen and you're not on Drag Race, people think you're not good, right? Or that what's wrong? Why can't you get on that show? And that show is not a talent show. They cast the same characters every year. It's more about not being in drag than it is about being in drag. So I feel really bad, because when I started, I didn't have to do my makeup a certain way. Like, think about Dina Martina. Would Dina Martina come out now from Drag Race? No.
And she's a genius.
A genius.
Yeah.
But there's not a template for that now, right? You either are the big fat girl, or you're the look queen, you're the comedy queen. I mean, Dina is in a total class by herself. I mean, I get to listen to Dina's show every night when I put on my makeup. And it's a masterclass in seeing how people deal with an audience that maybe isn't sometimes the best, or the audience is too into you. And it's so interesting to be able to listen and see. That's one of the magic parts of Provincetown, to be around these other artists. I get to listen to Dina Martina's show every single night. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, she forgot that line. And then she'll come back and say it later. And, and then we can even talk. She'll come back and say, did you hear that guy? I'm like, oh my God, I know. So it's just so funny. So for the young girls, I wish that they could feel like they could make it without that show. But it is very, very hard now, because the public just thinks that is the barometer of somebody who's, talented. I'm so glad I got in before more of that, because
I can understand.
Well,
yeah.
we're also, Coco, even Richfield. You'd have to, she has a look. She's a character. There is no room for character drag on Drag Race. There's no room, because you have to be, Michelle Visage say, why are you wearing the same wig every week? Well, because that's my look. This is my character, Character drag doesn't exist. Also on Drag Race, you cannot have a character voice, because they film you out of drag, so it would be so confusing. It would be, like, at one point in your drag do you start using your character voice? Kiki Balchange has worked so hard, and especially, you got to go to a big city. You got to go to a big city. You got to go to a resort town. When I started, there was no internet. But I got booked all over the country.
We are talking about history.
I know, yes. So there was no internet. So I would do a show here, and then people from San Francisco would have seen me. I go to San Francisco, and these people are like, you have got to see this show, and it was word of mouth, all word of mouth. That's all it was. So I think that still has to happen, that people, these young girls need to go to big cities to get known. Like, look at Sutton Lee Seymour, who hasn't been on Drag Race. Bianca Del Rio just had her open her show for her. So there's some great young girls that aren't on Drag Race who are amazing. There's a guy in town named a woman named Carlos. Have you heard of this?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, the talent is unbelievable. Like, the dancing is like a Drag Race girl, but then he sings and does characters, and the dancing is like, the kicks are above his head. It is so crazy. Like, old school theater queen, that kid is. That is what succeeds in Provincetown. If I say old school, what I mean is, I guess knowing your history and knowing theatricality. There's a reason why, theater has a beginning and a middle and end, right? Theater, it's been done. There's a reason why a show works. Now, people can play with these, devices to create their own version. But, there's a standard way. Theater is theater.
And I often say that to people who, are critical of drag queens. I say, well, it's no different than a stand-up comic, no different than a clown, no different than theater. It's all entertainment. There's nothing necessarily sexual about it. It's
no, nothing. And look, like you would never know who Dina Martina was out of drag. You probably would never know me. You'd never know Miss Richfield. I mean, a lot of the girls on TV, that they are who they are in drag, and when they're out of drag, in drag and out of drag, they're the same person. I mean, that's sort of what works on television. But young girls do not fall for those TV girls. I mean, there's some amazing too, like Ben and Jinx, and even Alaska is amazing, but so old school at the same time. I mean, these are all girls. All the girls that I love have a sort of a theatrical background. So young girls do theater, like do male parts in musical theater, and just learn the craft, learn how a play works, learn how a song works. If you're going to have longevity, because I think lip syncing, even though I think it's great, when you get older and you're 80 or you're like me, 55, and you can barely walk because, you've had 2 hip replacements and a knee done,
Well,
it's
I want to bring this up because this is one of the most historic days in drag history in Provincetown, a day that will be remembered for generations to come. Tell us about the Tic Tac accident.
Yeah, I was doing my show Ready to Blow, which was actually about anxiety. And it was kind of my most serious show I've ever done. But I had really bad panic attacks. And I think it was from COVID, after COVID, and just, worrying about the world. The whole show was about anxiety. But in the show, I had a pill bottle, and it was supposed to be like lorazepam, and I would put them in the martini glass, and then I had a metal straw, and I'd grind up the pills, and then I'd drink the whole martini. Well, I noticed that it got more laughs if I kind of messily threw the pills in there. And they were Tic Tacs. They were not real lorazepam. I have those at home. But I would so the messier it got, the funnier it was. Like, and they got on the floor. And I remember one night coming up on stage and slipping slightly. I thought, that's weird. Well, that night, there just must have been so many under my shoe, and I twisted, and my leg just popped, the knee popped the wrong way. And Dina said she could hear the pop in the dressing room, which behind another wall. Because, when your tendon, I had a patella tendon rupture, and that's a huge tendon on your body. It snapped. And, but, the show goes on. I had surgery the next night in Hyannis.
I want to hear about that. So you were taken straight to the hospital in full drag, full makeup? No?
I said, and I was still making jokes, and somebody has filmed it. I'm on the floor, and my kneecap is like halfway down my shin, sticking straight up through my pantyhose. It's crazy. Yeah, and so I'm sitting there, and everyone can tell. Like, people were laughing at first because I had fallen down, but then people could realize, oh, wait, this is not. It was a comic fall. It looked like a Pratt fall. And there just happened to be a guy that works at the Monkey Bar. He's a big, giant, straight guy. He weighs 350 pounds, a giant muscle guy, was in the audience with my friend Ray, and they picked me up after, and they brought me to the dressing room, and I was like, get me out of drag. I'm not going to the Hyannis. The Hyannis emergency room on a Saturday night in full drag. So they got me out of drag. It was so painful. Why we didn't just cut the pantyhose off me, I don't know. I painstakingly took all 3. And then they couldn't get a stretcher back there, so they had to put me in a chair like Cleopatra or a Jewish wedding. And cart me out that way. It was the best ride to Hyannis I've ever had. But the next week, I was on stage in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it was. I was there that night. I was there when Varla did her triumphant return to the stage. Yeah. It was not long after. We were all shocked that you were back on stage in a wheelchair.
Yeah, well, you know who did it? I was so depressed in Hyannis Hospital. I was so depressed, and I thought, my season's over. Ryan Landry said, do the show in a wheelchair. Just do it. He goes, people are going to come like crazy.
And we did.
They did.
I mean, that first show you did, I don't know how many standing ovations we did.
Yeah.
It was very triumphant. People were...
Well, thank you. It's emotional for me to even think about because it was hard to do, but then people were so grateful. It was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, that was a very hard time. I mean, it's kind of hysterical that it was a Tic Tac, and it's so on brand for my character, but that's what it was,
But it shows that you're an extremely resilient and strong person.
Well, the show must go on, and it does. And it does. I mean, really, you just have to stop thinking, I love that Ryan Landry told me that. He did. He said, just do it in a wheelchair. And then suddenly I was like, oh my God, I don't have to just sit here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to endanger myself by doing something, but I'm in a wheelchair. Might as well just strap a mic to it.
And it worked.
And it works. Yeah. But forever, you know, when I die, it's going to be in there. It'll be in my obituary that I slipped on a Tic Tac.
Exactly. It's now part of history.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
I've learned so much, and I always appreciate your show so much. I tell everybody who comes to town that they have to see you, and I hope you still come for many more years.
I hope so too. I mean, I really, like I said, I feel like I'm in a stride now and that I know what I'm doing. And it took, like 25 years to realize, wait a minute, I do know what I'm doing.
And you do it very well.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And until next time.